Now, the Federal Reserve has been under enormous pressure from business owners and politicians and economists to cut interest rates because high interest rates are quite hard on an economy in a lot of ways. Yes, they do bring down inflation, but they cause a lot of other issues as well. Case in point, small businesses. So this is a story that I recently did for Marketplace about the effects that high interest rates have had on small businesses, and we're seeing this in all kinds of ways. So businesses are always taking out loans for things. If they want to expand or if they need to replace equipment, small business loans are happening all the time. And a lot of times these loans are for like a 2-year period or a 5-year period. And many times when the business gets to the end of the life of that loan or when the loan comes due, they won't have paid it off entirely and then the loan gets refinanced, which just means the terms of the deal get renegotiated. And what's happening now is that a lot of small businesses are going to the bank to refinance their loans, and they are getting crushed by interest rates that are a lot higher now than they were back when they first took the loan out, in a lot of cases before the pandemic. This is Erin McKenna. She has owned Erin McKenna's Bakery for 20 years. She opened here in New York on the Lower East Side, and her bakery was like the first bakery in New York to kind of specialize in gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. All of her desserts are gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. So the gluten-free, vegan, kosher peoples of New York were excited that somebody was finally going to let them eat cake, and they rushed to this bakery. It was kind of an instant hit. Her business started to slowly expand. She now has shops in Los Angeles and at Disney World in Florida. So in 2019, note the date, Erin took out a loan to expand once again to Santa Monica. She was opening her biggest shop ever. She took out an $800,000 loan in 2019 and she opened this big shop. It was a huge investment. Well, as we all know, the pandemic happened and lockdown, and that pretty much destroyed Erin's business in this new location. The older locations were more established. They could do takeaway. They had a lot of really loyal customers. The Santa Monica location was too new. It hadn't had a chance to build that loyalty up yet. And so Erin really struggled with that location and finally decided to close it. But even though she was done with that location, she was not done with that loan. Now, she had paid a lot of it off, but she still had about $330,000 she needed to pay back. But she'd been making loan payments this whole time. She has a really successful, really long established business. She didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But when she went back to her lender to refinance, her interest rate had gone up to 15%. And what it meant was Erin was going to have to pay $8,000 a month, and that was just in interest and fees. And she realized that she couldn't do that and still make payroll at her other locations or continue to pay her rent at her other locations. So after 20 years of successfully running a business and owning several businesses that were doing really, really well, Erin found herself in this position of extreme financial distress. And she says a lot of her neighbors, a lot of the small businesses around her shops have been struggling with the same things. Thousands of small businesses have already declared bankruptcy this year. In fact, the number of small businesses filing for bankruptcy is up 60% over last year. In the meantime, Erin McKenna got an exciting offer from Disney. They want to feature her desserts on their cruises. So she is really trying so hard to meet that moment and to produce all of these desserts for Disney at the same time as she is trying to pinch every penny she can at all of her locations in order to be able to afford to service this loan. She's determined to make it work, but it has put her in a really tough position. Erin is pinching every penny she can. She's pared down her menu at a lot of her existing locations. She's ordering fewer cake boxes. She's gotten rid of takeaway bags, like everywhere she could. That's been hard on her staff. She says hard on her managers. So you see how this trickles down into the day-to-day operations of small businesses and makes things more difficult. Also, in a normal time, Erin probably would hire people to help her meet this moment with Disney. But of course, right now, she has to keep things as lean as possible until her loan situation gets worked out. Thousands and thousands of small businesses across this country are in a very similar situation. They've endured inflation, high labor costs, and now high interest rates.